be seated, please. Hello, everyone. My name is Pastor Bernie Quinn. I'm the lead pastor of the church here, Grace Community Church. Jill and her family would like to thank all of you for being here today. This is really remarkable, how many people have come out to this, and it is so very important to this family to know that you're here and that you love them and that you care. So thank you for being here today. It's my honor, privilege to share with you this brief message as part of this gathering today. It is in the midst of human tragedy that the best of people seems to me to shine through. Over the last few days, I've witnessed a rather remarkable outpouring of support for Jill and for her family. They have been surrounded by a very loving and caring family, neighbors, friends, co-workers, church families. It has been encouraging for me as a pastor to see this amazing love that these people have for each other. And this is so very important, particularly in the days ahead, as I suspect much of this pain will take some time to heal. There'll be a variety of emotions in the days ahead: sadness, dismay, guilt, maybe even anger. All of this is normal and very much to be expected. We know that there will be difficult days ahead. One thing is for sure: we have each other. There's little doubt from what I have seen in the last few days that Jill and her family are not alone. They have our support: practical, emotional, monetary, spiritual support. The days ahead may not be easy, but know this: we are in this together. We will be here to help because we definitely need each other. The tragedy, it seems, is also a time for the light of God to shine through brightly. It's in the midst of this unspeakable tragedy that you have already witnessed the light of Jesus shining brightest through the darkness. If you're here today and you're indifferent to God, seeing the circumstances, you might think this is an odd thing to say. However, if you spend any amount of time with Jill or her family or with some of Corey's closest friends, you will hear and see something that is truly remarkable. Faith in God despite circumstances. A faith and trust and reliance on God, strengthened, not weakened by what has happened. Trusting, not deserting. Steadfast, not wavering. God, so it seems, dispenses special grace in the face of this kind of human suffering. Another way of saying it, I suppose, is that God shows up and makes himself most real to his followers when they need it the most. And in the next few days or months, weeks, if you spend time with this family, you'll see what I'm talking about. God's presence, God's strength, God's help is with them. There is much, it seems, to learn about God in the midst of tragedy. The psalmist says in Psalm 139, verse 16, "When I was in my mother's womb, your eyes," speaking of God, "saw me, my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." This speaks of something in theological terms that we tend to call the sovereignty of God. While this word may not mean a whole lot to you, it would have meant an awful lot to Corey. Corey, you see, as you've heard, was a student of the Bible and of theology. He had a great interest in these kinds of theological terms and discussions and descriptions of God. He would have been very familiar with this central belief that teaches us that nothing catches an all-knowing, always present God by surprise. Things happen that we are not prepared for. Sometimes even terrible things. Events that leave us grieving. They are so unexpected. We could never have planned for this day today. These things leave us with questions, in shock, sometimes even in dismay. But Corey would want you to take comfort today in knowing this special theological teaching about God that he would have understood very well, that nothing catches God by surprise. And while events like this sadden God, God is still God. God knew this day would come. And he is an ever-present help to us in trouble. I think Corey would have understood and likely read many times a passage found in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, that we've made reference to already this morning. And it says this, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." Traditionally, this passage has been understood as saying that God is in the business of working good out of tragedy. It says that when things are at their darkest and everything seems lost, a good and loving God somehow is still there and is working. Working to bring good out of bad. Corey's dad has shared with you as something he told me a few days ago, that Corey's life was a struggle from birth. Born premature, you have the same image that he gave me of him holding his son Corey in his hand. And what I don't sure if his dad shared this with you, but he said that he could remember standing there talking to God, saying something like, "If you just let him live, then I'll serve you." And he attributes Corey's birth to his coming back to faith in God, in Jesus. And these kinds of things seem to be a part of Corey's life. Despite the difficulties that he had, his dad told me that Corey never let these things affect his spirit.